I'm awake. I'm good. Kind of enjoying this like wake up early thing. I'm like getting all like I don't know, getting more shit done. We'll see. Okay. Welcome to essentially in about 3 hours, 2 hours, you're gonna be done with your first week, and then you only have 3 more weeks left. So you can already see how fast this stuff goes. So that's why we got to make sure that we putting in that work. You know what I'm saying? So let me check the website real quickly and just make sure everything was working as it should. One thing to keep in mind too, um, for this RPM 2018, allow. Did I spell that right? So, is it all caps? Yeah, maybe. Oh no, no, I'm already on caps. RPM. Cool. So one thing that you'll want to keep note of is that get save the link to save a link to the class list of the recorded sessions because I will keep that for you up. So even after the class is over, you should still able to watch the videos. Okay, like watch the feedback videos. So I usually keep those up about like 2 to 3 months after the class, and then I get rid of them because you have to make space. So just keep that in mind. So save that link. So even if you're out of the class, you can still watch those. So yeah. All right. So let's get this going. Let's see if people are turning in and get it going. Look at that today. Look at yeah, I love it. Everyone trying to up their game. That's what I want to see. I don't know if you guys saw the new Venom trailer. I don't know. I just saw it today. With that, the Han Solo one. Not sure. Sure yet. Got to see. Okay. Extract this. If you haven't turned stuff in, just, I'll refresh. Don't worry about it. But let's just go from. I think we went from right to left last time. I think we can go from left to right. I guess. So let's see what's going on here. I'm just gonna grab a bunch of these things here. You know what I mean? And go with it. See what we got. Boom. See who we are going with. Let's work our way to Mr. Scott. How are you, sir? Good, good, good. See, now we're getting somewhere. Now, yeah. Were you the first victim? Never mind then. We'll go with somebody else then. We'll go with All right, we'll go with you first, and then we'll skip you. How were you the first victim last time? I thought we went. Oh, because it went backwards. Oh shit! It does that way. That's good. All right, you get this time, but next time we're doing someone else first. But let's start off because last week you were doing these thumbnails. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how this went for you? Because it definitely seems like you're um, a lot more simpler than you used to be than the way you were kind of painting before. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. I would say don't be afraid. I think the purpose of this part right here is don't be afraid to group values. You know what I mean? So it's okay to let all this be one value. You know what I mean? Um, you don't necessarily need to kind of like get all that detail in there. So the cool part about doing these is that you have to learn what's important and what's not important. You know what I mean? And so if I'm looking at this as I'm kind of drawing it, I'm like, do I need to see every fold of the character, right? Every fold of the character's clothes. You know what I mean? Like, do I need to see that? Is that important? And so that's kind of the next thing you get to start discerning. So then the one part that's kind of weird here is the ground isn't as the connection is a little bit weird. So it feels like it's floating in space. So that's where you probably have to put something on the ground a little bit, if that makes sense, to make it connect. So like right here, this is looking good. Like I definitely dig that. But now what you have to work on is you have to work on people, right? How do we make a decent drawing that's the shape of a person without putting too much work into it? So don't be afraid to, as you're drawing these, right? Don't be afraid to get a little more detail or just a little bit more clarity as you're kind of drawing these people right here. Because again, you got to think about the question: what is happening? It's two people walking in the forest, right? So the problem is that I can't tell those are people yet. So we have to practice the idea of how do we make that connection. So that's going to be an important part for you moving forward. So if I were to draw one next to you, I'll draw a guy next to you. Okay. So if I were to draw a guy next to you, I imagine that we have to get comfortable making that shape. And so he's gonna have arms. He's gonna have, you know, looks like he has a weapon, right? Is it a weapon? I assume. Cool. Some sort of spear, right? And so now the lighting will probably be, you know, right. Yeah, so you can kind of zoom in on this area just because again, this is the part where again we're talking about what's happening in the scene and what's important. So you can see which one's easily readable out of the three. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where you have to learn to say, okay, I need to kind of zoom out in terms of if I'm circling this, I want to be very, very broad as I'm kind of designing everything else. But the important part that's in this frame, I need to kind of put a little bit of extra loving in there because we need to kind of everything in the composition is already going where, right? Like it's leading you to that shot. So that's where you have to learn how to do detail because environments are really, really hard for this because there's so many things you have to kind of control at once. So you have to kind of say, when do I want to imply detail versus when do I need to make a statement? Okay, right? You hear me say that. I said that a lot. Make a statement, and make a statement. All that really means is I'm consciously like putting detail to to I guess inform the viewer of what's going on, right? So right here probably don't need that much detail, but maybe right here we have to work on that silhouette because that's a face. We need to know that's a face looking back at us, right? And then the other part here is then how do we blend the ground to these parts right here? So you might even say this could all be one value. So looking at it, it's like, well, do we need to see the ground at that point? Like, is the ground because right now it's distracting because of the contrast. So maybe instead we just make it all one value. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's where we go with it because we can't really see. So these are the kind of things you need to kind of practice a little bit as you go. But these are definitely an improvement. So that means that if we do another batch, we'll definitely get some more out of it. But the one thing I want you to practice here is how to simplify your characters. So again, if I'm kind of drawing it, if you have to, draw, do some anatomy for me. You know what I mean? And by anatomy, I mean don't do there. Sorry, that's terrible. But just a basic like do, and then you can kind of draw it in if need be. All right, and then once you get that, you can just make a couple strokes here. So sometimes if you're feeling confident, then go for it. Say, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna do it in one stroke. But sometimes you may not have that. You may not have that confidence, and it's totally fine. Um, but you definitely need to kind of make sure that it's like at least looks readable, right? So if you look at, and we'll take a look right now at my previous student, Ricardo Gumares, because I think he is like really doing well with these, and you can see um, how simple he's kind of applying detail to his stuff, and I think it just works. Um, where he's letting things become simple and where he's letting things become very, very complicated. So let's take a look at some of his work real quickly on my other screen. Ricardo, yeah, sorry. And let's see, he has it. I think it's Instagram. Actually, let me just check on my phone here. Much easier than to me sitting here. Next thing you know, I'm gonna come across some person I don't want to come across. Oh, Rick Guillem. Sorry. There we go. Now we are in. Allow. Sorry. Cool. So we take a look at some of his work. Some of his studies are very strong, in my opinion, the way he's approaching them. So, like, here's a great example of how he's breaking something down. We want to get you, like, to this point right here in terms of, like, how we're looking at that. And I'll copy, I'm going to print screen this. I think this is a great thing. But granted, he has a lot of detail in his work, and probably a little bit too texture for my liking. But you can see how he's kind of like cutting into the angles there. That's what I want you to get into. Is getting more into kind of how are you cutting into the forms is what we want to get you to get better at in particular. So a lot of his work, in my opinion, is very very strong. Like let me save this one for sure. This is like this is money right here. Thanks, Ricardo. And we'll take that one. And we will also take. I love this one in particular. This one's fucking creepy as shit, and it's really good. Um, okay. Thanks, Ricardo. Yeah. All right. If I make these black and white, you'll see what's going on. All right. So here's the beauty of this particular assignment that he did on why it's like so baller is because of the graphical read, and you hear me say that a lot too, right? And you hear me say this to everybody. I'm gonna say graphic read, right? And right, what the fuck does that even mean? It just means that if we kind of increase the values or increase the contrast in any direction, how much will it read? Okay, and this is when like, and granted, Ricardo, this took Ricardo a long time to get this. Everybody, like he took my class in 2012, and he's just now getting here. But now like he knows that he's got it. And let me show you why. Right? He knows that if I take this guy, right? So what's happening here, Scott? If you could tell me real quickly, like what do you see in this photo right here? It is okay, perfect. Right? I'm gonna increase the values. Right? Right? How fucking good is that? Right? Can you still tell it's a person? And you can still tell that's like something creepy as fuck, right? Exactly. That's where I want you to be. Yeah, that's a creepy thing because he purposely did that though. That's when I messaged him. I was like, "Did you fucking bastard?" He's like, "What?" I was like, "That's fucking amazing. That was really good painting." He's like, "Yeah, dude, I spent a long time on it." Right? But you can see the control he has on his values. That these two little shots was all he needed, right? So when he was designing, right, the stage that he got to right here, he got to that stage first before he rendered, right? So I want to make sure that we're discerning detail. I bet you if I even put this on a filter gallery here, and I made it cut out. You see that shit? Even at dude, even there, you could still be like, what the fuck is that? Right? That's what I'm talking about. Like that's where we got to be. And so this painting I think is a great example of that. And right here, right, we need you to kind of learn to cut those shapes out. So not quite there yet. A little creepy, but that's where we want to get you to. So you gotta learn how to draw some people in your environment as well. That's what we want to see. We want to see the simplicity of the shapes there. And don't be afraid to kind of put more detail in certain things. But we want to make sure that this is a clear read. So I think right now we're in a good spot where things are reading. Like I can tell that this is like a throne. Is that a throne? Right? Yeah, so you gotta make sure that things are lining up in perspective because right now it feels like it's against the wall. It feels like a hole in the wall. So just make sure you give some things a little bit more perspective, just in case, yeah. But again, we want to make sure that these things are reading, right? These people are reading in your piece. Mm. Yeah, that's where you have to decide too. What are we trying to highlight? What are we trying to emphasize here, right? And usually in these shots, it's most of the people. Exactly. So if you have to, that's you got to make that you got to make that choice. And so I'd rather you go further with it because we can easily. I'd rather you put lighting on it because then we can easily turn it off. You know what I'm saying? You can easily just make it pure black. But in this case, to make sure that it's not a tree, adding that in there will definitely help it out. So what I want you to do is again, a lot of these photos that you're looking at involve people. You got to figure out a way to make sure that we design people in a nice way. So otherwise, it's gonna suck. The worst thing that sucks about doing an environment is you do an environment and you put a shitty person in there, and it's like it just makes it like it just totally kills it for you. It ruins the immersion, right? We gotta make sure that we get that going. So this weekend, since you have more days for me, I want to see I want to see just three. Okay, I want to focus on quality here. I want to focus on three more. Sorry, I lost my voice there. I want to focus on three more sketches. Okay, three more movie sketches, and then hopefully we'll see where you are there. If we're doing good, I may have you move on to doing some of your own designs. But for now, I think the studies are going to be a good help for you. Okay, so I'm going to write three more sketches. I'm going to save that PSD for you so you have that reference of what I'm looking for. Okay, and then what I want you to do is also just make sure that we understand what's happening. What's happening and what needs to be emphasized, right? So just make sure you ask yourself those questions, okay? And this is goes to everybody, right? The way you want to think of it is when you have to simplify things, your approach changes, okay? So I want you to think about that. So a good example is, have you ever done life drawing before? Okay, so you know. Okay. So if you are doing a 30-second life drawing, what happens? Right? Okay. And if you're doing a 30-minute life drawing, what happens? What can you do then? Well, if it's 30 minutes. Exactly, right? So you see how your approach changes by the amount of time that you have, right? So you're saying that when it's 30 seconds, you're saying to me that, well, we may not have time to do the to do all the the anatomy, all that stuff. We have to figure out what we don't need in order to get the job done, right? That's kind of what happens there. So um, you have to hold on a second. Who can? Okay, cool. Just let's stay it all in there. So yeah, so what you're doing is when you're doing a 30-second drawing, you're saying, what don't I need? What's the bare minimum that I need to convey this idea, right? That's what we're doing right now. And saying, what's the bare minimum you need to convey this idea? And if you have extra time in the 30-second drawing, then you could add more detail. But until then, just keep it like that. Okay. Essentially, yes, but it's also making you take complicated things and breaking it down to its core. All right, and that's what Ricardo has spent a good amount of time doing. And now that he could do this, his work has like improved tenfold because he can understand this idea. He can look at something complicated and say, how do I break this down? And when you learn how to break something down, you can learn to slowly add detail. Right. Again, that's when you first learn life drawing, you don't learn how to do all the detail, all the shading and stuff, right? You learn what boxes, cylinders, cones, spheres, and you learn to apply detail on top of it. So for environments, it's the exact same thing. How do we break it down to its core shapes and we slowly add detail on top of it? It's the same exact thing. Once you learn that, you can literally do anything that you want to paint. But the problem is with the environments, because there's so much shit looking at us, right? There's people, there's sky, there's clouds, there's trees, there's buildings. You're just like, oh shit, I'm just gonna render here, I'm gonna render there, right? And you go all over the place. Next thing you know, it's a big piece of mud. You're like, what the fuck happened? Um, Simplification. That's the way we go about it. Okay. So keep that in mind. I'm saving that for you in there, and we'll get that going. Okay. Okay. Cool. So much. Um, Problem. Let's go with. Here, let me open up. Actually, I kind of want to go backwards here. I'm gonna go with Tom right now. I saw Tom was putting in some work for me. I want to see what he's got going here. We got the nice. Okay. Okay, so we got town map. Here we go. We got the different shots. I like that. Thumbnails of the villagers. Okay, so Lawson returns home as news spreads of the impending death of his father. Like that too. All right. So cool. We got all this. Nice. See, this makes it a lot easier to understand now. And what's going to be really cool about this is that even after the class, you now have stuff to work on. You don't have to really. You essentially became your art director. So that makes me a happy man. Let's focus on. So now that we got that kind of out of the way, I feel like we need to focus now on just like your approach and how you're doing your thumbnails, and let's just talk about that. How did these ones go for you in particular, out of curiosity? Um, Let me move this over. Okay, cool. So we have these ones. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I would say when we're doing these, let's be wary of texture here. So you have to find a way of how you're going to imply texture in thumbnails, because what happens usually is like this is kind of interesting, but notice the fidelity of this and this is kind of like crazy. It's like all over the place. So you want to learn to simplify. And a good trick you can do with your thumbnail, like if you're kind of unsure, is just like do this, right? At any point in time, if you look through your thumbnail and you can't really understand what's happening, right? Like, what is that? Can't really be sure, right? You want to make sure that as you look through your thumbnail, and granted it's supposed to be rough, but you want it to be readable no matter what point you're looking at it. And so at some points you may want to learn to be a little bit more simple. So let's focus on one in particular, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. So let's do this one right here, right? This guy, and we're gonna duplicate him here. So we have this guy, And I'm going to make the same value structure, and I'm going to go boom. All right, so we have that that value. And what I'm going to use, I'm going to use a lot of layers here. I'm just going to make a bunch, and I'm going to just link them so that way it all stays in there. So the first one is going to be that shape right there. And on this one, looks like we're going to have a little bit of like, I guess, sky or something. I don't really know. So we might even make that like even a lighter value. Yeah, probably a lighter value actually. I kind of like the sky volume that you have right now. So I'm just kind of like making shapes and kind of just brushing my brush back and forward and go, hey, you know what? I like that. We'll fuck with that. Okay. And this makes it a little bit easier if you have the brush, like the brush pen, because I'm changing the angle as I go. So makes it a little bit easier, yeah. We'll make another layer here on top of that, and that will be the water. And there you go. We'll probably add a different brush to kind of emphasize that. But let me just get the big stuff in here first, yeah. And looks like we are here. I may need to, let's see. And I'm trying to kind of like make sure I can cut into the shape as easy as possible. So that's why I'm kind of painting it in that way. And then hopefully I can just erase need be where I think I need to erase. And looks like there's a little bit of an overlap there, so I want to make sure that that is being emphasized. All right, all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm not gonna spend too much time like trying to get to it, but I want to make sure it's at least somewhat in the same ballpark. Okay, so let's say that that's like our piece there. What's kind of interesting here in this particular piece is that your water line kind of changes dramatically. So we kind of want to, emphasize that a little bit. So in the water, I know that if I'm going to put like the whitewash or whatever, then it needs to be kind of like separated here. So I want to kind of get those strokes to kind of really break off. But then as it gets further away, it needs to get like flatter and calmer. So notice my brush strokes are a little bit like thinner as we get there. But then in this area in particular, if I change my brush setting something that's a little bit more wispy, something that's a little bit more, sure, we'll do this one. Right? So I'm kind of pushing in these light and dark shapes here, and we kind of go back and forth. So I want that texture to be kind of like all over the place, and I'll switch back if I feel like it's not working, which it kind of is, but it kind of goes back and forth here. So I'd probably paint this on a separate layer, honestly, because this whitewash is kind of important to kind of breaking down the environment. So I know I want the whitewash around the edges of this rock, because that will help kind of show that, that it's being placed somewhere. So notice how the whitewash, and now I'm just trying to make it work for me. So now we have something like so. Now we are getting there in terms of our strokes. So now the next thing to do would be to, paint this environment in the far back, whatever that may be. And so then I would probably paint that on the same layer as everything else. And only difference is that if I were to, because it's so far away, I don't think it's going to have, in terms of like readability, it's going to be like really hard to see everything. So you may have some things kind of cutting into it, but most importantly, it's probably going to be very kind of a gradation. So you may have to kind of blend that out a little bit. So see how I'm kind of adding a little bit of texture there? All I did was kind of just throw a little bit on there. And that's what I'm looking for. So you don't need a lot of detail in order to imply it. So you can see which one feels readable from that distance. Can you kind of see the difference now? Yeah. So it's not even like like you're working too hard. You know what I mean? Like you're putting all that stuff in there, and I don't want you to work hard. Like I want you to go and like do other shit, and enjoy life. So I want you to kind of focus on simplicity. And so that's the hard part, right? As we were talking with Scott, right? We're adding. I want to make sure that you can look at something in your head and figure out the most efficient way to approach it, so that you get your idea across really, really easily. Yeah. So now the last thing in here is to get that boat. So that boat, I would imagine maybe we'll make it like a darker color just in case. And so the boat will probably have some dark values in here just so we can like see it, I guess. And with the boat, looks like we're seeing like the side of it. It looks like, I guess. Sure, why not? So that's our boat. But what's cool about our boat is that it has this big white mast that we can kind of play with. So I'm going to look at that and cut that shape out. But what seems kind of interesting about it is that it's like extremely very, very light. But I imagine, maybe we want to kind of make a little bit of a gradation there, just so it kind of stands out a little bit more. So I'm purposely kind of saying, oh, what if it was like a little bit more of a softer light, like God lighting. So now we're kind of getting in there. And on top of that, if that lighting is really hitting it the way that you're implying it's hitting that to me, um, that means that we have to kind of do our best to kind of make everything else around that feel that 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 way as well. So that means that to probably darken some things up a little bit. So slowly but surely, I'm kind of adding more detail. And on top of that, I would imagine that we need to add more detail. You see what's happening now, right? Now you probably got to add more detail here. And you see what's happening now? Like now, our shapes here are now leading us to look at the environment. See that now? Boom. Right. And I haven't even really zoomed in yet. I guess I'll zoom in now. Maybe I'll throw in a little bit of some love in there on this rock because it seems kind of important because it's kind of like the spot that was just right there. The difference right there. That's what I'm talking about. That's where I need you to be. And I don't think what you're doing is like far from this. I think like you can totally do this. It's just a matter of just making the conscious decision to to make sure that we're like, okay, I got to make sure that this stuff is reading in this direction. So you see the difference now in terms of quality, like, and I barely even did it. Like I was like a 5 minute situation, 10 minute situation. But you can do this. Like what I'm doing is not hard. But what you have to think about right now is your edge control, right? Your edge control needs a lot of work. And so, meaning where are things going to be soft and where are things going to be hard, right? What needs to be implied, what doesn't need to be implied. And that's going to be like I think your next kind of journey for you. If you want to get your work up to that level, that's going to be the next thing for you. It's like, how do I imply this detail without having to, you know, work, work, work so hard for it? You know what I'm saying? Be more like efficient with the script. Exactly. We want to be efficient because when you're doing environments and stuff like that, like trust me when I say like you ain't trying to work. Like I'm not trying to work. I'm doing environments. Like I want you to be comfortable, right? um, when you're not comfortable with something, you get tired very easily because you don't know what's going on, right? It's like you ever play a sport? You ever do like sports or anything like that? Yeah. So, for example, like I do soccer and boxing, right? When you don't know what you're doing in boxing, you get fucking really tired because like your mind is always thinking and your mind is like what's going on. You get tired a lot easier because you're constantly having to like adjust situation. When you're comfortable, your body relaxes and you don't have to think about it. So when you're efficient with your strokes, you can do stuff a lot faster because your brain doesn't have to think as much. You know what I mean? Like you're not like, wait, how do I apply this? What do I do? What do I do? And the next thing you know, you're like, fuck, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. But when you're comfortable, right, and you have that comfortability, similar to play soccer or basketball, like I don't have to worry about do I know how to throw a punch? Do I know how to make a pass? It's like I've done this millions of times. Now it's just where am I doing it, right? I don't get tired. I'm like I'm comfortable in my element. So I want you to get comfortable when we're doing this, so that you don't feel like shit, like am I doing this right or whatever. It's like it takes a little bit of practice. So we want to practice the comfortability, like being comfortable, so that way you can execute on a very high level. A great example of this in terms of like non-art is look at the Conor McGregor Mayweather fight. I don't know if you ever saw that or if you follow boxing. Yeah, Conor McGregor got really fucking tired. Why was that? Because he's out of his element. Notice that Floyd Mayweather round three, he was smiling. Why? Because he was like, I know what I'm doing. He was like, I'm not gonna get tired. Like I know how to pace myself, right? And when Conor lost that match, right, he said, what surprised you about Floyd Mayweather? He's like his composure, right? Composure meaning that like he didn't freak out when he was getting hit. He knew exactly what he was doing. So of course, what would happen? He boxed himself out, and he got too tired. He couldn't do anything. That's because he was so unfamiliar with boxing. He couldn't. There's no way he could have got that in time. And so I want you to be familiar with this kind of stuff. So edge control is where I want you to be. And hopefully you can see the difference now. If we were just to kind of look at this, like scroll up here and up here. I didn't finish it in particular, but that's what I want from you. Okay. I want the good shit. We call it the juice, right? You've heard that term before? So people like that do like really good shit, they say it's juicy, right? They go, damn, that's juicy. I want the juice. So I need you to give me the juice, right? I'm not saying this is like the juiciest thing ever, but it's got a little bit of juice, right? I want the juice, right? And when you get and those pictures that I showed you of like I think of Sung Choi Kim, like his work, that's juicy, right? So none of these are quite juicy yet, but you'll know when you get it, right? I want the juice because with the juice equals money. Because when you got the juice, that means people want to pay you for that shit. So Ricardo, right, that guy I showed you, his paintings were juicy. That was juice, right? Now he gets paid for it, right? That's what I want to get you to. Okay. So what I want you to do this week is I want you to give me three, okay? Three juice paintings off of these, and I want you to pick three. I'm not sure if I like this one in particular. Um, I do like. I would say I like these two are pretty cool, just because it has a good establishing shot. This one, like you're kind of behind the rock, so it feels like you're hiding. I'm not sure if you're like a pirate or something like that, or maybe even like this one or this one. Okay, and let's focus on that idea of getting that juicy juice. All right, and we can go from there. I think this will help you. And I'm gonna save this PSD out for you so that you have it. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back to this stuff. So hold on to these. So we're gonna need these later. So I'm glad you did them, and hold on to this as well. This is gonna be important. And eventually, we're probably gonna get to when he's on land, and hopefully, by the time you get good at doing the for this first stuff that we're working on, we get to this things. You're gonna look at these and be like, "What the fuck was I thinking? I need some more juice." Right? Like these all have great potential, by the way. They have great potential. It's not juicy yet. Not there yet. But we're gonna get there. Okay. Um, push them to the juice. And I know that sounds vague, but like it has to be something that like we look at it. And again, let's look at someone like Sung Choi, right? Let's just bring up his work. And I always bring up his work because I think what he does is just a really good example of like what juiciness looks like. So I'm on my other screen here, And right, that's the level of what people compose to, right? Keep that in mind. People compose at that kind of level when it comes to sketches, which is fucking crazy to think about. That back in the day, that used to be like an illustration. Nowadays, look, that's a sketch. How good people have gotten. People have evolved. It's fucking scary, right? We can look at Aton, right? Aton recently put some new sketches out. Let's look at Aton Zana, right? Where did he see? He put them out, right? Those are his sketches. See the thing here? They got the juice, doesn't it? It's juicy as fuck. I want juice, right? I'm thirsty, right? Thirsty. Give it black and white. I'm thirsty, Tom. I want the juice. That's what I want from. Okay, so that's why I'm saying three. Like you can give me three quality ones. We can work on that. That's what I want to go towards. Okay, is getting something that like you want to go. Remember that this goes for everybody. Remember that like your work has to inspire an entire team. Think about that for a second. That when you do like a thumbnail sketch, your team has to be like, oh fuck, you need to render this out because it's gonna be so fucking sick when you do this, right? And that's what it has to be like, right? I have to look at this and be like, oh fuck, like I can't wait to render this out because this shot looks so fucking sick, right? You know what I mean? I'm not sure if I get that quite yet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now I'm putting you on the same bar as everybody else that I have to do, right? That's a lot of nerves, right? And when you get those nerves, you get tired, right? But you have to be comfortable to the point where you go, hey, you know what? I gotta deliver, but I got this. Like I'm gonna do this. My team's gonna be like, what the fuck, shit? Let's go, right? So I want you to get in that mode of like your team. You have to build inspire your team. That's how you get the job. Unfortunately, that's how good you have to be. Um, and so think about that. Think about like you're gonna show this to like a team of art people, right? And they're gonna be like, dude, I'm down with that. Okay. All right. Let's get it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The juice, guys. Give me juice. I'm thirsty. Kalen's thirsty and he wants to drink juice. Want the good stuff. Let's go over to Riley here real quickly. Since we're on that idea of thumbnails, see what we got going here. For Riley. Okay, you did a little extra. You gave me a little extra something. You gave me a little extra something something. Okay, let me download that. Hold on. Hold up. Look at you. Okay. Okay. Oh wait, shit. Are you on? Are you talking on the Discord? Or are you talking on the the join me? Okay, good, cool. Because you're kind of cutting in and out. Okay. So, these are not bad. I dig these. The harder part about these ones is kind of figuring out how do we simplify some of these environments. And I think you're in a good spot. We just want to learn to kind of go a little bit further with it. So, looking at some of these things right here, we don't need a lot of that detail. So don't be afraid to kind of like not have all that stuff in there. Like this is me kind of saying, you know what, that's not important. So you just want to get like that this nice little chunk, yeah? Like that's what I want to focus on. And then with that, I would even suggest that we want to probably group this value as the same. So that way it's kind of easier to understand. So I'm kind of doing some like small things here. But we're just kind of grouping the values a little bit more. We're saying like what needs to be grouped, like what can be kind of like shown and what can be not shown. So like I'm taking this value right here and I'm saying, you know what, I'm gonna make that like one value as well. You get what I'm saying here? Like I'm kind of pushing that in there. Yeah. So That's all you probably need to do on these is like just kind of group some things more because it's a really complicated scene. And what happens is it gets really convoluted and it's hard to understand what's going on. So even here, I would say, you know what? I don't even like this can all be one value. So now I am kind of pushing these guys here, and then boom, boom, right? You can kind of see where that's going, right? Just slowly but surely. Boom, and you know what? You know, we say well, let's combine this as well. You don't need that shit, right? Because it's not important. Like what's important is the same thing that I asked. I think it was Scott, right? Like what's going on? Like what are the people doing? That's all you got to ask yourself. And once you understand that, everything else not important. So like for me, in order to kind of like convey this person doing stuff, I just need that shape of the arm and maybe the bowl, right? That's all I need. And then he has a little bit of a hat or something like that, or he or she, I can't really tell. That's what you want to focus on is like getting that shape down. I'm not doing it the best of the ways. All right, and then you can kind of blend that out, like if you need to. That's not the best like rendition. I apologize, but hopefully you see what I mean. Is that we don't need to put that much detail in. So we're kind of like letting that kind of stand off a little bit, and then this guy should be fairly easy because it actually should be like super dark from what it looks like in terms of contrast. So don't be afraid to kind of push that contrast there, and then with that, you know, we probably want to make it the same value. You know what I mean? With a little bit of light on it. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm saying is like, don't be afraid to kind of push it a little bit more, so that way there's more contrast, so you can see what's happening. I think right now what the problem was is that it's like it's standing out too much, like it's everything's kind of blending in too much, and then we can't see what's going on. So that's why these are really great. When I'm talking to you about talking to everyone about that idea of like how do we take like complicated things and simplify it. Orientalist paintings are like the master of this. If you can master doing these, they're like you're in the zone because then it's like if I can break down an Orientalist painting, which are like by nature fucking hard to do, like you can literally do anything. So that's probably the only thing is just learning how to group those values so you can see that things are a little bit more readable there. Like we kind of focus on this area. That's what I want you to focus on moving forward. This one's actually a lot better, I would say, in my opinion, just because, yeah, because this one I can tell you're kind of like really like breaking it down into like three or four values. And so that's the reason why like I limit you to like three to five values is because then you can get convoluted. Where here like because there's so many values it gets really muddy. Here I feel like you're limiting your values a lot more and it's working out for you because now you're like oh shit like what do I put and then you go from there. So I would say like you can simplify this even more like you don't need to do like the individual textures. Like you can just do like one stroke and then like you're fine, and you can do it like that and you should be able to call it a day. Yeah, don't give me details. I'm gonna slap your wrist through the screen. I want you to learn to like again focus on the simple things here first because again, notice that all of your stuff right here has the same exact problem because of your like, and your ideas are cool too. Don't get me wrong. These are sick ideas. Like this dude is like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Fuck this shit." And he's like, "Come get me, come at me, bro." There's all kinds of cool shit going on here, right? There's all amazing things. But the problem is like, again, your ability to like want to do this. I can tell you're doing it. You're like, don't do that. That doesn't look good. That looks like poopy clouds. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do it, like make a decision. All right, that's the idea that we call about making a statement. Doing these studies, right, with limited palettes forces you to make a statement, right? Because you have to say shit. I don't have a lot to do. I don't have a lot of like stuff to put down, so I have to like do this in one stroke. So why do all that when you could just do this, right? You get what I'm saying? And saying boom, 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 round plane, right? If I'm gonna do clouds, I'm gonna use it as big as possible, right? And I'm going to try to be as thorough as possible when designing it, right? I'm not gonna like sit there and kind of like noodle and finesse it. Like I'm gonna try to do it in a couple of different strokes, right? If I'm gonna do this big giant ship, I'm going to see if I can do it in limited strokes. I'm gonna draw a person. Right? I'm going to try to break that down a little bit more. Look, he has a ponytail. Give him a little ponytail. Or not. Who cares? All right. I want you to not get too caught up into the not important things. Yeah. So now if I do that, right, stick, sure. Right. That's what I want you to start to get down, right? You can still understand what's going on here, even though I didn't put like half the detail in there. So like you're there, like you're getting there. It's cool. But right now, composition is going to be your big thing. So I want you to evaluate what's going on here. So if we have to maybe even think about it, I think what I want you to do is we're going to do three more of these, but I'm going to give you three values instead this time. All right. So three values: light, medium, dark. This is going to be hard, by the way, because it's going to force you to really understand what's important and what's not important. And we're going to see how do you group things. I think this is where we want to go. This is heading in the right direction. If we can get to there, then that means that when we get to this guy right here, like these will be really really nice because you can see where the graphic reads are. Like I can see what's happening. That's a read. That's a read. That's a read. But notice when we get to like this area, it's like what the fuck. I have no idea what's going on, right? That the problem is that how you're grouping your values, how things are reading, aren't working, and that comes from studying. So work on this to improve this, and you'll see the difference. Okay, it all comes full circle. I promise you. I promise you. You're like, what the fuck? And it's gonna be cool. So I will set this out for you just so it gives you an idea of what you can be aiming for. It's not the best, but hopefully you'll see that this will definitely help you. But let's do three more, and I would really like to see you really focus on again not texturing and try to keep these shapes clean, especially because architecture. I don't want anything like you know what I mean. Like this looks a little bit kind of messy. I want stuff to be clean, clean shapes. Yeah. If you got to hold down shift, so be it. But I want these shapes right here. I want all that stuff to be nice and clean for me. Yeah. So no dirty stuff, right? I want the juice. The juice is clean. The juice is like it looks nice. You know what I mean? So you may have to use a little bit of layers here. You have to use layers in order to kind of get things going. That's fine. That's the way I work too, though. So I'll use a lot of layers with like a shape, so that way I can paint into it. You know what I mean? Give me that juice. And we'll go from there. In particular, actually, if you wanna actually pick three new ones, yeah. Go with three new ones. Go from somewhere right. Three new ones. Three new ones. Okay. See here. Boot camp. That actually delete some. Hello. You're back. That's all good. Don't worry about it. So yeah, just three new paintings. If you want to do Orientals, that's fine. Put someone else, that's cool too. But three values, okay? And we'll go from there. Oh yeah, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. If you have any questions, hit me up. I got you. I got you. Let me make sure refresh here. All right. Okay. Let's go with Felix real quick, and then we'll go to Nikhil, then Julia. Spend some time with Julia. The ending class. This looks a lot better, actually, Mr. Felix, if he's in the chat here, having some connectivity issues. Is this like an alien thing? I think it's like an alien thing. Kind of creepy. Sure, I feel about that. It's very cool. Okay, cool. So I think what we want to do now is now that your line weight is in a better place. Ah, you can't hear. Okay. Let's see. Um, I will go with someone else. I think we'll see. Check audio. Okay, because I'm talking in there, so it's there. Until you can get your audio up, but feel to listen in Discord. Okay, Leader has stuff in the folder. Okay, cool. All right, Leo, I won't forget yours as well, so I apologize. Um, okay, let's go to Julia. Let's go to Julia right now. We're on the same page here. Miss Julia, what's going on here? Julia has left terrain, ancient pilgrimage, three reaches, broken ropes, deep in the water, rope, bridges, abandoned camp. Ooh, I like all this. This is cool. I dig this. See now we're going somewhere. Right now we can make something happen. So I think the next phase is now that we have this, let's now kind of draw on top of it, right? Let's see what we can do here. So we have the sketch. Let's turn off the reference. Let's turn off the notes. Right. Focus. Now that we have something going on here, let's let's draw into the shape. Okay, that's what I want you to do. So make sure though, real quickly, that we are thinking about perspective. This is kind of an important thing here. Make sure that our perspective is correct there. So there's kind of like I'm kind of eyeballing this a little bit. So it's kind of a 3 point perspective. So we're kind of drawn outward here, and it looks like things are kind of going off in this direction in terms of, you know, right, in terms of perspective. So that's kind of like the 3 point perspective line that I'm seeing
Okay.
thus far. So just kind of keep that in mind. Yeah. So make sure things are kind of adhering to that. So make sure you draw a grid if you can. Um, don't use mine in particular, but just draw a grid so we understand that that's what's happening. And with that, we can then easily make a white layer and see, you can see the grid right there now. A little bit more, we can kind of go underneath it. And now we can begin to sketch out what we have here. So we have these things. I want to kind of cut into the shapes. I want to kind of get the big shapes down first. So then we can kind of design around that. And so I want to see you get like a nice rough sketch here that we can kind of work with. Okay, that's what I like to see. So let's just work on like a section of it here. Let's just work on like this section, like the first like two parts here. And I want you to get something that is like that communicates the idea effectively as possible. So if this is water, we need to figure out how do we sketch water. Okay. If this is, rock, how do we sketch rock, right? We wanna be able to understand how do we draw these things out, okay? In perspective, and how do they kind of blend in with each other. So that's what I want you to get going, and I want to get like a decent sketch to kind of figure that out. Make sure you draw a person for scale all the time. That's important, so we can make sure that we understand like how big things are in comparison. So that's my person. Doesn't need to be anything too complicated. But we definitely want to we want to focus on your line art here, and we want to be able to focus on just overall detail, right? So how are we indicating detail, right? How are we indicating foliage? How are we indicating rock? How are we indicating ground? All that kind of stuff, right? That's what we're gonna focus on is this how do you understand that stuff and how do you communicate it? And everyone communicates these things differently, so we have to figure out the way that works for you. And so as I'm kind of drawing this, this is kind of just basic for me. It's not like I don't get too crazy with the detail. I like to use a little bit of darker shapes for me because I'm kind of come from like a marker kind of sketch background. So a lot of things for me involve a lot of kind of like dark shapes. So for instance, if I was kind of drawing this, right, I like to put in a lot of like dark marker shapes. Not saying that's what you want to do, but that's how I kind of break things down because it's a little bit easier for me to think of it. So I think of it like if I was using a Copic marker, how would I go about that? And so that's kind of how I break it down. But I always put it on a separate layer so that way I could turn it on and off. So totally up to you on how you want to do that. But what I would like you to do is get a decent drawing of this area that's understandable, right? So again, think about the overall details, some of the small little texture ideas, how our form's changing, all that stuff. How do we know this is water versus rock? All that kind of fun stuff, right? That's what I want to. Okay. So let's make that happen, and we'll get that going. So I want to get this part figured out, and then we can kind of slowly add to it. One thing I would say is try to get a brush that has a little bit of a little bit of hand pressure to it, meaning that if I press lightly, it's light. If I press hard, it goes harder, right? So you want to start something very, very light first, probably, get the whole shape going, and then kind of, you know, put in those complicated shapes and that kind of stuff. That's what I want to see first, okay? Is break that stuff down and then add detail, okay? So just keep that in mind. So I will save this thing out for you. Just let me know if you have any questions. I think maybe you're having some audio issues, maybe I would assume. But it's in the right place. It's better. I like the ideas that we're going with. It's just now let's see what we can draw. Okay, so let's kind of keep it in a simpler state. Let's not get too complicated with it. Okay, and then let me know if you have any questions about that. But you're always in a good spot. So now let's start drawing, which should be the fun part. Yeah. Okay. Save that out to bootcamp assignments. One, see, like now we're all working here. Like now we're all like getting somewhere. So within a week's time, we should have something kind of decent, I hope. So Felix, what's going on? Are we in the spot? Are you good? Or what's up? You can hear me. Uh, you can. All right, cool. My man. All right. So now that we have some good line art, the next question is going to be how do we kind of bring this into values? So your next step is let's focus on values. So I want you to pick three of these, and I want you to get your value studies on, sir. So how would we do that? Well, let's do one together. So use layers. That's going to be a key component here, right? Use your layers, right? So I didn't use one right there. I fucked up. I see I already fucked up. All right, now I have layers. Okay, bam, layers. Make a bunch of layers, link them there, holding down Alt, flip that shit, right? Now let's have some fun. So luckily for you, you already have shit done for me, so I don't have to do anything. I have to make this down to values. So I want you to practice doing something without lines, okay? That's the goal here. It should be completely clear. I don't want you to use lines if you don't have to. Because you're not going to do that in your paintings um, unless you want to get a certain style. But I want you to get comfortable drawing something without too many lines. Lines usually tend to flatten things, and they're good at the start, but eventually you want to move away from them. That's just personal opinion. So, what's up, buddy? By the way, folks, I have my dog Toby. Hold on a second. I think Toby wants to come say hi. Take a quick little side quest. If you ever hear my dog, that's where he is. Toby, come here. Up, up. Come here. Come on, come on. Right here. Nope. Toby, come on. Come on. Up. No? All right, I guess he doesn't want to come up. Toby, come. Yeah, there he is. Say hi. Say hi. This is the Tobes. So he's a little dog. You're gonna hear him every once in a while, just in case. That's the homie. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, you scared me when you walked in. Give me a kiss. Good boy. Good boy. You're a good boy. Okay. Go down. Okay, love. Good boy. Sorry, there's a bed like right next to me. So that's Doggo. That's the Toby Tobster. His name is Toby Tobster. Tobstein Toberson. He's the man. All I do it all for Toby. That's all I do it for. Okay. Anyways, back to painting. So as I begin to kind of, lay in some of these values here and breaking this stuff down, maybe adding a little bit of texture here and there, we can now add in. And I dig some of these sketches. I dig some of these compositions here. Pretty cool. Um, we can then kind of add in a little bit of darker shapes here. So I would even put it on a separate layer right here. So that way I don't have to worry about like blending things out. So check this out. So now I'm gonna kind of like erase to make it feel like it's like in the same area. So we're gonna focus on like efficiency with our painting, yeah? Boom. All right. Okay, Riley. I will see you. Okay. So notice how I'm kind of pushing these shapes out here, and then I can go back to this layer right here, and I can. Looks like this one might be a little more action in there, and then there's gonna be one in front of it that's like. I want you to practice like getting some of this stuff in here a little bit more comfortably. Yeah. So now we are. Look at that. So now we're kind of having some fun here. Now we're like kind of putting stuff in. we have this nice shape. The last shape in there would probably just be this big giant, circle, in which we really push that idea. And then you can always link it so that way we don't paint outside of things. See that? How I made that selection, and now I couldn't paint outside of it. Right? So we now want to work on this idea of how do we paint this without any lines. You can use this as a starting point, but eventually I would like you to be able to paint this with ease. Yeah. And so layers are really important, because in particular, this is going to force you to understand how to break something down by a lot. So I really want you to think about the layering process and what that means. Yeah. You can see how it's supposed to work. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it right there. And again, because I have that one layer here, really, really easy kind of break stuff down. And yeah, so I gotta probably zoom out a little bit more here. So I'm kind of messing up. And I'm kind of maybe making some cuts in here so that way I can make some stuff. Do that. Because I have it all on its own layer, much easier to make changes. Yeah, much easier. That's what we're kind of aiming for here. If you want to be able to kind of like do something like that, and of course, when you do that, then we can kind of focus on like actual kind of gradations and stuff like that. So you can go in here and say, hey, let's get a gradation, and say, you know what, we want this to have like only want it to be on the top. That's what I want to work on. I want to work on like the painting part of this kind of stuff for you. Okay. So let's get that going. I want you to pick three. The three in particular that I like a lot, if I had to guess, but you can pick your own. It's totally up to you. But I'll write the things that I want to see. I want to see painting. I want to see no lines. I want to see good layer organization. And I want to see good values and lighting. Yes, good values and lighting. The ones that I like in particular are this one, this one, this one, and I think that one. These are the cool ones. So you can pick any ones you want. Those are the ones that I dig. Okay, so let me know, and we can go from there. So thank you so much, Felix. I appreciate it. Let's get it going. Have some fun with that. That's gonna be a fun. Okay. I'm gonna save this out as a PSD for you, sir. Assignments, week 1. There you go. It's all in there for you. Have that while you can. I'm gonna download. Let's go to Nikhil next, and then I'm gonna download Leo's because I didn't download his. That. Throw it in there. Throw it in here. Boom. Boom. So we'll go with Leo last here, and go to Nikhil. Keel, how's it going, sir? It looks like we are now putting in work. I like this. See? So now we're not concerned about detail. Now we're concerned about just the overall like feel, right? You know what I mean? Like, so we can do a group things. Make sure if you're gonna do these, make sure we just kind of throw like a number on here. You know? Yeah, it always helps later. Um, in particular, I'm kind of feeling, uh, I'm kind of feeling all these. Like, I kind of like a combination of like, I kind of like A and B. What do you think? Or which ones are you kind of feeling right now? You like C too? A and C? Okay, okay. I like I like the height levels here. There's a little bit of like a bridge going here that I kind of dig. Um, I dig the forest area as well. Um, is that like a bridge as well, right here? Okay, cool. Yeah, I kind of dig that. But what I also dig too, this is actually really nice what you did here. You put a piece in the foreground to kind of block something off. So I dig that too, because then it kind of makes it feel like um, we're kind of seeing under, like we're kind of seeing from an above spot, and I dig that. So I don't have to do that on purpose, but I actually would encourage you to do that more a little bit in certain areas, just because it helps us get a little bit of deep. So I kind of dig that. So let's keep this kind of like it's good for storytelling. Um, so I think we need to do a combination of A and C. That's what I would vote. Um, if any students have any other suggestions, no. I think A and C. What do you think about that? Okay, cool. Let's go with A and C. And now that you have this stuff kind of like laid out here, I dig that. So what I would like you to do is when you work over it, I'm gonna need two things from you. Um, or I guess three things. Let's go with like I'm gonna need a perspective grid. Okay, on a separate layer. So I'm gonna write one. See here, one perspective. So however you draw, that's up to you. I do have some of those like in the brushes. There should be like a perspective grid situation going on there. So just make sure that we have a good idea of the grid and where it's going. This will just make it a lot easier later on to make changes. Looks like everything's right. So that's our grid. Okay. That's the first thing we're going to need is the perspective grid. And the second thing is going to be line art. Okay. But because this is kind of a little bit complicated, I don't want you to do the whole thing. I want you to work on a section. Okay. Which kind of goes against like my teaching, as I say, like work on it as a whole. But I'm not sure if we know like what kind of detail is acceptable yet. So I would like us to do a section of it. This is a very complicated thing. So I want to make sure the same. So it's kind of the same issue that Julia has, is that we're not sure if like this is gonna work yet. The section I'd like you to work on would be probably like this section right here. Easy. It's in front of us. We can understand what we're seeing, and I would like us to then design out what that is. So, and as we do that, the next section I want to see is, uh, and I want you to do it in two parts. I want there to be a rough shapes with detail over it. And so I'm going to walk you through what I mean by that. So I would like you to do rough shapes. So if I were to do this, I would say I'll do it in different colors. So we'll say, hey, this is going to be um, our house. Maybe there's a little bit more to the house, I guess. I know what? I think maybe probably like that. That's going to be our house. This is going to be connection to that house. Hopefully you can see what's happening here as we're kind of building this out. Then these are like the rough blockouts. Exactly. So I want to make sure that on one layer, I want to see this because I want to make sure that like everything makes sense in terms of like what we're seeing, right? The shapes blend into each other properly. Because if we don't have that, it doesn't matter how much detail you put into it, it's gonna look bad. Yeah. So I want to see how do these blocks blend into each other, right? This is gonna be really, really important. So it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'm gonna call you out on it. I fix that shit. You want to make sure that this stuff is looking good, right? And then once you get those blockouts, you can lower that detail if you want to, and you can do whatever you want. But then on a different layer, let's say a red layer, we can then say, okay, well, what is that? We can actually draw on top of it. So obviously what I would do is I'd probably just lower the opacity of it. And I'll, like, right? I would say, oh, I'll make this like a greenish color, dark. Now I want you to then draw on top of it. And the idea that should happen is that when we do that, we should be able to add all the nice detail that you would want because we can see all this. Push stuff in there. And I want it to be form. I want it to be like high levels of form here. We really want to feel the shapes. So we're cutting into the shapes right here. And we're following. Oops. I want to feel all that information, right? It has to feel real. It has to feel like it has a lot of space, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm looking for. There's small little details. I want to see all that too. And try to work at a high res, by the way. I'm not sure what resolution you're working on right now. I'll check. But I really want to make sure that we have enough room to zoom in because you're going to need to zoom in on this, unfortunately. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. So yes, and I want you to kind of just break this down for me, right? And one last thing is for this area, let's have a separate layer for each building, okay? So that way it's easier to kind of talk about. So this is going to be the hard one for you, but this is where you're going to learn a lot of shit on organization. Organization is going to be key when it comes to these kind of drawings. Organize, all right? If you organize, I should be able to walk through your drawing and be able to kind of help you out a lot easier, okay? So that's going to be the goal. So let's work on a combination of A and C, but again, I want perspective. I want to put line art on top of it, but the way we do that is you want to see the rough shapes, how you're building these shapes out, make sure that's okay. We're going to put details over it, and then we're going to separate the layers, okay, of each house. Okay? My man. Now you got some work to do. So now for Monday, I want to see some awesome stuff. That's going to get the ball rolling. It's going to start to really kind of focus on your skills. Yeah? Okay. All right. Put that up for you. That's going to be there. And you got some work to do. So let's do it. Let's get good, everybody. Let's get good. Okay. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Leonardo, putting in that work. I see you. Yes. And now we're having fun. Look at these. These are kind of juicy. They're getting there. Architectural, right? Art Deco. Okay, going with the Deco like Merrick. I see you. See you. Wait, is Leonard even here? He bounced? Oh, he's here. What's up?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Cool. So these are close. Not
Hmm.
quite there, but they're close. I see a little bit more detail. One thing you can do though is that when you separate the layers, um, you've now kind of earned the achievement of like you made this work with two values, which I'm sure is hard as fuck to do.
Yeah.
So I'm now giving you a new weapon.
All
The
right.
new weapon is atmosphere. So you can now use atmosphere. Congratulations. So what I mean by that is now if you want to, you can take a value. Should you choose to accept it, you can now add in the bounce light. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see just how much that affects the piece as a whole. See what happens there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can now start doing that. Okay? But it comes with the price. Okay? I don't want you to think that like you're getting off scot free here. You are not. Price of that is that when you do this, you have to give me better looking character. Okay? Right now, these are a little bit kind of janky. Okay? So with that, I want the juice. Right? I want there. If you're gonna draw these guys, I'll allow you to throw some values on them, but they have to look nice. Okay?
All right.
No squiggly nonsense. You can now add a little bit of texture there, but we gotta make sure that these guys are nice, and especially at least in the foreground. Like I understand, like if you're like, yeah, it's a lot of fucking people, I don't want to draw all this. Um, I get that, but at least give me one that's close by, so that way I can understand like what we're seeing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At least like this first like row needs to be like well thought out. Okay.
All right.
So that way, like as we're kind of drawing it out, like if you just draw the first one, I'll kind of be like, oh, okay, I get it. It's a person, right? So just make sure that whatever that is, it's a clear representation of a person. Maybe it's like a hoodie or something like that. So I want you to kind of like work that out, okay? We want to
Mhm.
really push that idea. So I mean, you can do the same thing here. It's not hard. It's just a matter of taking these guys and putting a guy in the extreme foreground, right? And just throwing some light on the shoulders and then calling it a day. And now that I'm giving you some more values, you should be able to kind of throw in some reflective light on some of these areas right here. Meaning that to take this guy. Whoops, let me move this. Let me duplicate this. Or you know what? We should just draw it out. Let's just draw it out. We have time. So if I were to make a piece, what we can do is, so far you have it like that, right? Which
Mhm.
I dig that. Just make sure we're separating the light and the dark, so that way we're able to see things a little bit easier. So right now you have it like that, which is good. This is a good practice, by the way. Like, we're getting that juice. Good stuff. So now, in between some of these guys, it looks like you're kind of erasing, looks like to me. Alright. Hold on a second. I apologize. My lady is making smoothies. Let me close the door real quick. I'm in the zone right now. Sorry. Hold on one second. Just making smoothies. Hopefully she makes me one. If she doesn't, it's fucked up. She's making me a smoothie, I'm gonna be hella disappointed. I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? You making this noise? And you don't make me one? Come on now. Come on, son. Alright. So here you go. So we're erasing that. So now what you've earned now is you've earned the right to be able to add gradations, to add reflective light or add like certain kind of details. So what you can do now is you can now kind of step into this kind of like mid-tone area to kind of give your piece a little more form. Okay?
All right.
So what I like to do is I'll kind of like block it in a little bit. But we don't want it to be like, we don't want it to be a brand new value. We want it to be kind of like a transitional value, meaning that like there's form to it, but not really. So if I lost the transparency and I kind of like go over it very, very lightly, see what happens there. It's like not really adding too much form, but it's kind of implying it. You know what I'm saying there? And then I'm always kind of going with the stroke. So meaning that if I then paint on this layer right here, on the back layer, and I go like downward, you see what happens there?
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of re-emphasizing some of the basic forms here. See what's happening there? Boom. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we need next.
All right.
The next step. That's an easy step to make too. So notice that it's super fucking subtle, right? But the cool thing about it though is that what you painted already is still being emphasized. So that graphic read, right, vocab word everyone should know about already, that you painted is still working. We're just kind of emphasizing it in certain places, right? That's what we want to do. Now I'm going to blend out some of these right there. Cool. So now we are talking, right? Now the next thing I'm going to allow you to do is edge control, okay? What do I mean by edge control? Well, that's light, right? I assume. You're going out somewhere, I assume, that little area. If I had to guess. So if that is light, well, we can now add softer values, meaning that now we can imply stuff. Right now, all your edges are hard. Now we can say, you know what? What if we threw in light? Right? So what does that mean? It means that we are now going to throw in a lighter value. What just happened there?
Yeah.
Now it's softer, right? Now we're slowly building some shit up. And on top of that, now we can add smaller gradations, right? Now we can go in here and we can say, who the fuck is emailing me? Not important. Okay, sorry. We can now break this down and watch this. I'm gonna make the fucking stroke, right? I don't want that. I just want to get that halfway point, like right there. And I'm gonna slowly just kind of give me some of that little gradation, a little bit of that goodness. And bringing that shit down. That's juicy. That's juicy. Juicy. See that? That's what I'm talking about. Now we are moving somewhere. Now we're pushing stuff. Okay? Let me link all this shit in. Sorry. Boom. Okay? Now we got all that going in there. Now on a separate layer, we would want to add the people. Okay? So I would make it into 3 separate layers. meaning that we'd have one for the foreground or background, right? And then we'd have one for the midground. Whatever that entails. And then one for the foreground. So one for the background, one for the foreground, one for the midground.
Alright.
And now that we have that organization, it's going to be a lot easier to then add in extra details should we need it. So let's say you want to add in a couple more. See what happens there? Now there's fucking overlap. They put on a separate layer. See that shit? So now if you want to draw people in light and not in light, you now have that fucking option, which is fucking tight. So now, like, imagine that you're drawing it and you're like, oh shit, this guy's going to be in light because he's on that plane. Well, guess what? Now we have that option to do that, right? We can draw that guy in light. Not before, but now we can. The difference there?
Yeah.
So organization now is key, and that's what I want you to focus on here. And now with that, you can now, you can erase certain things so you can get your little shapes that you like. I saw some little pieces there. And now you can even say, you know what? I want to round something off. You know what? I'm going to say, I think this should be softer. I'm making a game decision here. I'm going to round this fucker off, right? So by erasing this, all right, what happens? See what just happened there?
Yeah.
It's now a fucking pillar, right? So and hopefully you can see like how systematically I broke that down. Like it wasn't like painting everywhere. It was like a very conscious decision, and I want to make sure you're on the same page to do that. Okay. And so luckily, this is a good start. But I was only able to do this systematically because the first drawings were readable, and I understood what was going on. So now if you do it the way I just showed you, we're going to hit the next level. And that's what I want us to do. Because I want our drawings to be juicy, and I want them to be a level of complexity, but also classiness, the composition. And so I think the compositions are very classy. I dig them. Now it's just execution. I want the execution to match the idea. Okay?
All right. Mm-hmm.
We are in the right ballpark, my friend. I am very excited to see what you do. Now I'm just giving you more tools. And so you guys are going to see in this class, like, I will kind of limit you a lot of times until you can demonstrate to me that you're comfortable, that you can do it without it. Because here's the problem. Like the problem with most people is like they go through these kind of classes and they're like, shit, I don't have these brushes, or I don't have these textures. I don't have this, I don't have that, right? And so when you level the playing field and we say, all right, guys, I want you guys to do a composition which is 3 values and this one brush. Who's going to stand out, right? And most people that rely on gimmicks and stuff like that rely on brushes or certain kind of photos or relying on 3D all the time, you can tell they don't really like do that well. Did you make me a smoothie? I like that. I'm just kidding. We were joking about it on the thing. I'm like, is she gonna make me one? And we're having bets. I lost. Come give me a kiss. I love you. Say hi.
Hi.
Everyone say hi. Love you. Bye. Bye. Okay. Anyways, when we level the playing field, right? Who's gonna win? That's what I'm saying here. It's kind of the thing that I always talk to my students about. Is they always complain they don't have like oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, and it's like, dude, this is all you need. And so now that I'm limiting you, and this is because I limited you in the previous class, right? Now you're like, I can tell you were sitting there and like, shit, how do I do this with like 2 values? And you're probably racking your brain, I assume. And now I'm saying, you know what? Like, you've racked your brain hard enough. Now I'm going to give you some extra tools. And the cool part about this is that now you're not going to rely on it, though. I don't want to have to ever rely on tools to say like I can't use them because of the tool. But now I know that you can do it. So now that you've proven to me that you can make a composition read with just black and white, now I'm going to unleash you a little bit. I'm going to say, all right, you can use these tools now. You can use a little bit of gradation. You can use a little bit of like softer values. You can use a little more layer organization. Next step is, what do you do now for me? And that's what I'm curious to see. Okay? So this is going to be the fun part, is taking a few of these and kind of making them a little more juicy. And hopefully you can see the difference there, right? In terms of like readability. Is that this has a little bit more visual interest, but only because I'm using a little bit more tools. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's get that popping here, and we'll go from there. I'm liking the reference. Let's keep that. We're definitely going to get to this later, so that's good. I love all this shit. But yeah, let's focus on, since you have time, if we can do all three of these, all six of these, that'd be dope. No, sorry, 4. We do 4 of these. If we can do all 4 of these, that would be awesome to see how we kind of make that juice. And that's the next step. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Possible? Oh man, all right. Because you already got that line art going. Now you want to make sure that compositionally you can show to a director that you know what good values and good compositions look like, right?
All right.
By the way, I've been doing this at work actually. We have to work on a new promotional thing for a new character reveal, and I've been having to do story beats, and all of my story beats look like this. That's how I do them, right? And they're all like, "Oh shit, it's fucking hype!" And eventually, I actually had a shot just like this, actually, but there was like statues and stuff like that, waterfalls and whatnot. And this person, like one person, like walking through an abandoned thing. But this is how I do it. Like I work like this first, and funny because they go like, "What are you doing? It's just black and white," and I'm like, "Just wait." And once I paint it out, they're like, "Oh shit, it reads really, really well." And of course, the reason why I do this too is because then when they show it in the meetings, it's something that people want to think about too. The reason why graphic reads are really important is because not all the time are you going to look at it on a screen like this. A lot of times, like you're looking at it on a projector, okay? Because you're in a meeting with people, and so all people have to see it at once. So a lot of times you can only see it like that. You know what I mean? Because you're far away in the meeting, like you're far away sitting in the far back. So you want to make sure whatever you're drawing, like, can be seen from the far back and can be understood from the furthest spot away. So a lot of times, like when I do stuff, like I'll get up out of my seat and I'll kind of like be kind of dumb, and I'll kind of sit there like this. I kind of just stare at it, and I'm like looking at it and like doing this, like, does that work? Is it okay? And then I go back and then I'll sit back down and look at it. So just make sure that you're kind of giving yourself a good perspective in terms of looking at it from different angles, from different distances as you're working. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. This is good. I like where this is going. It feels very, very grand. I'm liking the compositions that we're going, especially this one, right? It has that very kind of just like Pompeii, like gladiator type thing. Like I feel like something like shit's gonna go down. Very Assassin's Creed-esque. Like I like this. I feel like it's big. Try to not be too flat here, just because like the flat line going across. Don't be afraid to get some perspective lines in there and kind of chisel into the shape. So maybe this one kind of goes in and then goes in and then go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get some thickness in there. Yeah. This is right, not so flat. And so if we actually even look at your ones right here, your Art Deco ones, there's a lot of not flat at all. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of like little extra things sticking out. And all you need for that, by the way, is just the extra line, and then you're good to go. So, like if you just draw an extra little piece and then make that part kind of come out, then you're good. You know what I'm saying? So, get a little more thickness in there. Yeah, this is gonna be an entrance. I want it to be epic, right? I want it to feel like dope. And then, yeah, I think that's probably it. And let's try to avoid. And I want some clean stuff. None of this stuff right here. Make that clean for me. I want clean stuff, right? Clean shapes, all the time, right? Next level is juice. I want juice. Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right, my man. I will save this out for you so you can see how I kind of broke that down. We are well on our way. So, very, very good week. Congratulations, guys. You have made it through the first week of the Royal Pencil mentorship. So, hopefully, you're not tired of me yet because I'm going to be on you guys as we go. So, let's just make sure we're on the same page. Again, I can look at it right here. So, Tom, I want you to do one of those shots. Let's focus on that juice. Scott, let's figure out how we do, the simplification of things. That's really, really important. Yeah. How are we breaking down the important parts of the shapes? What needs to be detailed? What doesn't need to be detailed? Felix, let's focus on not using lines. Let's focus on getting good values. Julia, let's start working on a small part of that environment, focusing on line work. Nikhil, let's combine A and C, and let's go with that. Who am I missing? Leo, you already know what it is. We just let's get that juice in there, and I think that was everyone. I feel like Scott, Riley, and then Riley. Let's do two more of those. But let's also make sure that we just when we do those that we simplify that. Okay. So I want you to kind of work the way Leo was on those ones, Riley. And eventually I will unleash you to be able to use other tools. But for now, we'll keep it very, very simple. Okay? And we'll get that going. Make sure I wasn't missing anybody. Am I missing anybody else? Let's see. I think that was it. Dropped the ball this week. Oh no. You fumble. All right. So Corey, bring whatever you're working on for Monday. I believe it was a sci-fi, which was making the basic shapes, if I remember correctly. Bring that in Monday. Let's go. Let's get it going. Right? I don't want to drop the ball. Like again, this class moves fucking fast. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna be on you, right? So it happens. I do it at work too. I fuck up sometimes. And I'm like, shit, I get this done. And Richard's like, all right, man, but next week. Like, come on. And I'm like, all right, I got you. So balls will happen. You'll drop the balls. It's all good. But it's how you recover. Okay. So show me what you got. Let me go from there. Check the recordings. If you have anything, if you need to check these things back, go there. Also, I will throw in right now the links. I'll do this right now. We'll call it a day. I'm gonna throw in the links right now in the Discord for that Gumroad Life. Yeah, I'll throw those in there. I'm gonna give you the link. Okay, let me find it on my other shit. So hold up. Let me see. Let me find this shit. Why is it not? What? Why is this not? Oh, what? What is wrong with this website? Share. Okay, cool. So there is one. You got that. And this is share. No option. Sorry. Cool. And there is two. So you should just be able to say like I want this, and it shouldn't charge you. That's the way I made like a coupon code. So please grab that. Please don't share it obviously because that goes towards wedding money. Weddings are expensive. We fucking knew. I think that's it today. Yeah, that's it today. Okay, cool. So again, today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's literally like a work week in studio time. So make sure you guys are putting in that work so we can get going here. Okay? And then if you have any questions, I'm around on Facebook. If you haven't added me yet, if you haven't added me on Facebook, add me on Facebook. And then message me on Discord. And also share your stuff on Discord, right? Help each other out. That's the way you guys are going to grow even faster. Okay? In the meantime, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Julia, Nikhil, Riley, Leo, Tom, Felix. Let's get it going, okay? I will talk to you guys later. Take care and peace out. Late. Cheers. All right. See you, Nikhil. See you, Corey. See you, Tom. See you, Julia. Thanks.